All right, folks, well, we are back to the shop. We are back from Overland Expo West. I still have some content that's going to come out from that trip. I have a camping video where me and David from Amazing Life camped out in some beautiful area in Arizona, so guys, look forward to that. But I thought I'd take a quick minute to address some of the questions and concerns people had from the video I posted about putting a high top on my van. So before we get into that, we did have a little issue on the trip. As you can see, I'm missing a swing out here. The pin that comes up where the swing out pivoted on actually snapped and broke off. Apparently having the bike on the back was just a little bit too much weight, so I'll have to be fixing that. I've got some ideas how I'm going to not only fix it but make it stronger. I'm still hoping to be able to have the bike on the swing out because it's convenient to be able to swing the bike out of the way and get to the back doors versus the other bike rack that I had on that tilted away from the van. So anyways, that's going to be one of the repairs that I'm going to have to do here at the shop now that I'm back. All right, so one of the main concerns that obviously people had with the high top is what would I do with all the cool stuff that I have up here on my rack? So let's address that first. So obviously one of the things I can't live without is my awning. I use it all the time when I'm camping. It's just so convenient. So it would still get put on the high top. I would get some brackets and I would bolt through the high top and have the awning still mounted on this side. So on this side of the van, I would also still have my CVT shower room. I'd put brackets through the high top for it, and I would put brackets through the high top for my shovel and axe holder. So they would still basically be in the same position as they are now, except for on the side of the high top. Front of the van, I would keep my Diode Dynamics 50-inch light bar. It would also be bolted to the brackets that would go through the front of the high top and still be basically in the same position it is now. And that solar panel, I would have bolted to the front face, angled face of the high top, and it would go on. Now whether I have just stuck with this solar panel or maybe a flexible, I'm not sure, but I would still have done a solar panel in the front face of the high top. And in the back, I would have the same 50-inch light bar, maybe actually upgrade this one to a Diode Dynamics as well, but I'd also have the light bar in the back bolted through the high top. All right, so obviously with me bolting through the high top in several places, people are going to be concerned about leaking of the high top, having spaces where water could get in. So obviously I would seal the bolt holes with some kind of sealant. But what I was also going to do before I actually put the gear on, I'd just get the mounts on the high top, get everything, all the mounts prepped and ready on the high top for the gear. But then I'd take the van over to Seaside, over to Line-X the Coast, same folks that did the Line-X on the whole outside of the van, and we'd have the Line-X put on the high top. And I'd have them put the Line-X over the high top and all over all the brackets. That way it would completely seal in all those brackets and seal in those holes, and there would be zero concern of any leakage on the van. So having the Line-X on the high top, obviously with the high top being a little bit higher, people were also concerned about hitting branches and damaging the high top. Now, the high top is made of fiberglass, which is extremely durable in its own right, but with the Line-X on the high top, it would make it very durable, and I wouldn't have any concerns about the high top rubbing against anything. Yes, the Line-X is really that durable. Since I've had the Line-X on this van, it has rubbed against all kinds of stuff, and there's not a scratch on it. So having the Line-X on the high top would just make it very indestructible, and obviously within reason, I wouldn't have to worry about stuff rubbing against the high top or damaging the high top. All right, so let's address storage. So I have the skybox up there, and I put extra gear in there sometimes, like my kayak or hunting gear or just various different gear, like something else. Right now it's pretty much empty. There's pretty much nothing in it. But when I do things that are outside of the normal gear I carry in the van, that's where I store that gear. So what would I do with it? So with the high top, obviously, I'd have a lot more roof space. So I would move my bed up quite a bit, probably up like this high, and that would give me a much bigger garage space underneath. I could build that area out, and what I would like to actually do is, instead of having the bike on the rear swing out where it is now, or was now before I broke it, I could use one of those Timbo test slides that I showed you guys in the Expo video, have the bike on one side underneath the bed, and then on the other side underneath the bed I could have storage for like my chainsaw and a little firewood box storage to put firewood, and then also have some extra space and storage to be able to put the extra gear that I use in the skybox. So one of the problems with keeping my chainsaw and having firewood up here, and then also having the skybox up here, is when I do throw that extra weight up here, especially firewood, like if I stack this with firewood, it makes the van extremely top heavy. And so if I could actually put that down on the floor level of the van, that would really help with my center of gravity, or lowering my center of gravity, and make the van not nearly so top heavy when I'm off road. So I hear what you're saying. You're thinking to yourself that adding the high top to the van would add a bunch of weight to the top, making it very top heavy. But actually, once you cut the roof out of the van and then put the high top on, the high top actually only adds 95 pounds, which would be lighter than the roof rack that I have up there right now. All right, so I know some of you haven't seen Daisy in a couple videos and been concerned. She's just right here hanging out in the shop with me, laying on her shop bed. She was with Megan while I was off at Overland Expo. She doesn't really like all the bouncing around and hardcore off-roading, so she enjoyed some nice lazy days in the van with Megan while I was gone. And now I'm going to be back for a while and doing some repairs to the Sasquatch that I've already kind of talked to you about. So she's going to enjoy some lazy days in the van with me. But I do have some plans for us to kind of get out and do some just relaxing camping, no bouncing around off-roading here in the next week or so. So yeah, she just needs to, as she gets older, she just needs a little bit more of a relaxing life. All right, so let's get to the reason why I wouldn't want to do the high top on my van right now. Now, quite honestly, the extra headroom would be awesome. So this would be the space here that I would be able to stand up in, and this would be the kitchen. I could have, instead of having, you know, everything low like it is now and have to be on my knees, I could actually have a nice counter space like Megan has and be able to stand up. Now, to be honest, I would still have to have my head cocked, probably about this much, standing in the van, because that's about the way it is for me in Megan's van. But that would still be a lot better than being squatted down or on my knees all the time inside the van right now. So what's the deal? If I have a place for storage and I can move all my roof rack stuff around and I can get all my gear back up that I want on the top of the van, have room for all the other gear inside the van where it'd be more secure, out of the weather and out of the dust and stuff, why wouldn't I want to do the high top? And the reality is the real reason why I don't want to do the high top is I spent a lot of time last summer building the interior of the van the way it is now, and it took a lot of time, took a lot of money, and for the most part I'm 90 to 95% happy with the build in the van right now. It feels very homey, it's very rustic, it feels like a wood cabin, which is exactly what I wanted for myself in this van. And I wanted to feel like wherever I was at, that I felt like a little cabin in the woods. Now I could still keep that aesthetic and have the high top on here, but I just don't want to go through all the process and time to tear out a build that I spent so much time on last year or last summer and tear it out. And it's not even been in here for a full year. It's, you know, I put it in, it got done with it towards the end of last summer. We're just now going into this summer. And so, yeah, I just don't want to, I just don't feel like really tearing it out. It's working for me right now. And when it comes to money and investment and time that I want to spend on the van, I have another project that has got my focus right now. I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but I will be talking about it in some future videos. But it will be probably the single most biggest upgrade since the 4-wheel drive conversion to this van, and I'm excited about it. But it's also quite a bit of an investment, and it's going to take some a lot of time to complete. So tearing into a build that is already functioning for me and working for me, maybe, like I said, it would be better to have the extra space, the extra height. All that could be better for me in the long run. Right now, this is working, and I'm really, for the most part, happy enough with it. And so this is just not a priority for me to do right now. The high top is just not a priority. Now, does that mean I'll never do the high top? No, absolutely not. I'm still very much considering it. It's just, it may be like a year or two down the line that I might do the high top. Like I said, I do think in the long run for me in the van that the high top would be the best situation for me, to have that extra height in the van and to be able to move a lot of that weight that I've been throwing on top of the van down into a garage space where it would lower that center of gravity. So I do see a lot of benefits to the high top. It just really comes down to finances and time right now. I've got a bigger fish to fry that's in my mind, and I want to get focused on that and not be spreading myself so thin and on time and money trying to accomplish something that, quite honestly, I can definitely live with this build for a couple more years before doing the high top. So, do I think high tops are a great idea for Econolines? Absolutely. I think a lot of it just is going to be the way you build it out, the way you set it up. And I think it could be great. And if I didn't already have this build in here and happy enough with this build, I'd be probably considering the high top a lot sooner. But as it is, I still see myself doing it, most likely, but it'll just be a year or two down the line. Anyways, guys, I hope that answers a lot of the questions. You guys did have some very valid concerns, and I appreciate everybody who commented on that video and gave me your thoughts. That was awesome. And if anything that I have said in this video that you feel like there's still a concern that you have with the high top, I'd definitely still be happy to hear it. But like I said, we're not going to do the high top anytime soon. So, hope you guys found something useful out of this video, especially if you're thinking about building a van or doing something. Maybe you got some ideas out of even just what we talked about here. If you did, please do give the video a like. If you have any comments or questions, leave those down below, and we'll catch you guys again outside.